how to get relief from these negative emotions like fear, anxiety, worry, and stress in just minutes. You're probably wondering if that's even possible. And yes, we can get relief. We can get small amounts of relief, medium amounts of relief, and large amounts of relief, depending on how far you're willing to go, if you're willing to take the time and be supported. Stick with me to the end, and I will share what I do to overcome these emotions that sometimes feel extremely overwhelming and scary. As I share this information, know that you don't have to do any of this alone. There are many trauma-informed therapists, counselors, and coaches who can support you on your healing journey. So first, let's understand why we feel these negative emotions in the first place. These negative emotions are a way that we disconnect from ourselves in the current moment. When we are feeling fear, grief, depression, despair, powerlessness, it's all us separating from our true selves, and that's why it feels so painful. Our true self, our being is all of love, all of those amazing, wonderful feelings. So if we are disconnecting from that self, it's going to feel extremely painful. And so our body and our mind is trying to say, hey, this isn't who you are. You don't have to feel this way. So sometimes it's hard to pick apart these negative emotions. They can just feel like one big, overwhelming emotion that's kind of taking over us. I'm going to share with you a story about a time when I was feeling all of these at the same time. I didn't know which one was which, and it actually brought me to my knees. There was a time I was going through a major life change, and I had two main people in my life that I loved, people that I should have been able to count on, should have been able to lean on, should have been able to rely on, but they weren't there for me. And in fact, when I was having a conversation with one of them, I said, I just want to be able to be myself. And the words that I heard back were, well, then I'm not the right person for you. And I was destroyed. I had to choose in that moment, do I be who this person wants me to be, or do I be true to myself? And in that moment, I had to choose, and it was incredibly overwhelming, but I chose me. And it was painful. I didn't know what I was feeling. All I knew is all of this came crashing down on me. My world came crashing down on me. The weird thing is 12 hours later, the second person in my life who I should have been able to count on, should have been able to rely on, said to me, you need to choose what you're doing, or you need to choose what I'm doing, and you need to choose now. And I was not in a space to choose myself. So I went home not knowing how to make sense of my reality, not knowing how to make sense of my world. If the two people that I cared about the most, who should have cared about me the most, were telling me that I had to be what they wanted or be what I wanted, how was this even possible? And I literally crumbled to the ground. The weight of all of these different emotions actually put me on the ground, and I stayed there for 3 days. Crying, not knowing how to make sense of this. I was crying so hard, I was trying not to hyperventilate and not to pass out. But here's the thing, even in that extreme emotional upset, I knew that because I've been doing this healing journey for so long, I knew that I would make my way out of it. I knew that this would just be part of my story that I would be able to share with other people. I knew I was going to be okay because I knew who I was. I had a connection to myself, and I knew that I would find that connection again. And so why do I tell you this? Because I know that you can move through all of these feelings, whether you're able to pick them apart or whether it feels like everything's crashing down on you. I know that you can come out that tunnel, out to the other end. How can you do that? First, try to pick apart each of these negative emotions. Even though it feels like they're all coming down on you, if it's possible to pick them out one at a time, it'll make it much easier to start to work through these. So when we look at the emotional scale, we know that the very worst possible feelings are the feelings of fear, grief, depression, despair, and powerlessness. From those emotions, we don't feel like there's anywhere to go. We feel like we're at the very bottom. So if we can pick those apart and just work on fear, just work on grief, just work on depression, it'll make it much easier for us to actually move up that scale. And again, I would strongly suggest finding a trauma-informed professional that can help you with this. So as we move through these emotions, let's just use grief, for example. We want to allow ourselves to feel the grief that's coming up for us. The word emotion means energy in motion, and it's meant to be felt. It's meant to be felt and moved through us. There are some ways that take a lot of time for that to happen, and then there's some ways where we can actually speed up the process and help it flush out of our systems much faster. So if we are working with grief and we are letting it move through our body, move through our system, the idea is to move up this emotional scale to a feeling that feels better. So we're going to work on grief, let it go, let it flush. And you know what feels better than grief? Something like anger, something like worry, doubt, or pessimism. Even though these are still quote unquote negative emotions, they still feel better than grief or depression or despair. So the idea is, let's work through those bottom layer emotions and work up to something that feels a little bit better. From there, we can work into boredom. And from there, we can work into a hopefulness or an eagerness. But the way that we do that is by allowing these emotions to flow through us. In our society, unfortunately, we're taught, oh, just, hide your crazy, or just think happy thoughts, or just get over it. That always works, right? But the way that we start to get over it is actually by allowing ourselves to feel what's coming up and move through us. And this does not have to take a long time. And it doesn't matter if you've had this feeling for 10, 20, 30 years, it's not going to take that long to actually let it move through you. One of my favorite tools is called EFT, or Emotional Freedom Techniques, or tapping. What I love about it is it helps move these emotions through your body's energy system much faster. And I'm not going to go through all of those points. There's some other videos you can check out, but one that I want to share with you right now are the collarbone points. So if you look at your collarbone, these little bony points right here, about straight down, about right here, there are 2 points that are specifically for dealing with things like stress and anxiety. So if you are finding yourself having one of these kind of panicky kind of moments where you're feeling the fear, the grief, the despair, something very easy that you can do is just start tapping on your chest. It could be with a flat hand, it can be with 2 hands, it could be 2 flat hands, it could be fists. However you want to do it, what this is doing is as we tap on these points, we're sending an electrical pulse through the body's energy system, goes through our body and up to the amygdala. The amygdala is what controls that fight or flight response. And basically the tapping, that signal says, I'm not in danger. I'm not about to be eaten by a tiger. I'm okay. I'm just having these really bad emotions right now. And so when we can down-regulate that amygdala and that stress response, all of a sudden our energy starts to flow. We're able to start processing these negative emotions and we start to feel better. And really what we're going for is that big deep breath where we can start to feel a little bit better, a little bit at a time. I love EFT because for me, it helps move those emotions much quicker. So instead of staying in an emotion for days at a time, sometimes it might be one day, it might be minutes. I love this point. It's something that I share with children, teenagers, and adults. And I love the results that it gets just by this very, very simple and extremely effective way of just tapping right on your chest. I know it looks silly, but give it a try. Let me know if you try it. I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas. And then lastly, I want to cover something about why we might be holding on to these negative emotions. There's a lot of people that don't want to do the healing journey. And so I would encourage you to ask the question, how is this serving me? These feelings of fear, grief, despair, how is this serving me? Because many times people will subconsciously choose to stay stuck because it's serving them in some way. So I'm really encouraging you to find a trauma-informed professional that can help you with this, because instead of having to cope with this stuff on a regular basis, if you can heal the root cause, then you won't have to spend so much time feeling these negative emotions, and you'll be able to get back up into those more joyful and delicious feeling emotions. So some of these examples might be, how is this serving me? It might be because you're getting a lot of love and attention from the people around you. There might be a trauma from your past where you learned the only way I can get love and attention is to feel this way, because all of a sudden everybody swoops in to help me, to love me, to encourage me. Or it might be about power. If you're feeling very powerless, but you're having all of these emotions and people are coming in and now you're getting to take on this role of power, then that would be a really good reason to stay stuck in a problem. And the other one is usually around safety. We see this a lot with someone who might be overeating and being overweight. There's a trauma in your past where you got unwanted attention from someone and it felt really scary. You might choose to become overweight in order to create a safety bubble around your body. Again, work with someone who's trauma-informed, a professional that can help you start to dive in and dissect some of these things. Again, it'll be up to you. You can choose to stay stuck. You can choose to find healing, but you don't have to feel the pain anymore. You can choose to heal those root causes and choose to feel better, and it doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to be painful. Thank you so much for popping in and watching this video. I'd love for you to watch the next one, which is how to overcome stress and depression in life. Go ahead and watch it. I know you want to feel better, and it's just a click away.